The Black Hen. Part 1. The story happened many years ago in St. Petersburg. The city was not as beautiful as it is today. Some of the houses were still wooden. Bridges were old and narrow. There lived a headmaster of a school for boys in this city. The school was not very big. Boys studied and lived there. Some of the rooms were classrooms and bedrooms for boys. The headmaster with his wife and 2 Dutch ladies lived in the other rooms. The ladies were very old. There were 30 or 40 children in the school. One of the boys was Alyosha. He was 9 or 10. His parents lived far from St. Petersburg. Alyosha was a nice, clever boy. He always studied well. Everyone was fond of him. On Saturdays, all Alyosha's friends went home to their families, but Alyosha stayed at school. He felt lonely without his parents. On Sundays and on holidays he was alone all the time. Then he read the books from the headmaster's small library. Alyosha liked fairy tales and stories about noble knights. He knew much about many famous knights. He liked to imagine himself in a knight's castle or in a dark forest. The school had a large yard with a wooden fence. Alyosha always played there. He liked to come up to the fence. The boy often looked through the round holes in the fence. Alyosha hoped to see a good fairy in the street some day. He wanted to get from her a toy or a letter from his mother and father. But he never saw any fairy. During his walks in the yard, Alyosha also liked to feed the hens. They lived in a small hen house near the fence. The hens played and ran all day. Alyosha knew them all by name and often gave them small pieces of bread. He was fond of a black hen called Blackie. She liked him too. Blackie even let him touch her. Alyosha kept the best pieces of bread for her. Blackie was a nice and quiet hen. She didn't fight with the other hens. She liked to play with Alyosha more than with other hens. It was a warm day in winter. Alyosha came out into the yard to play. The headmaster and his wife were very busy that day. "We have a very important guest today. It's the inspector of schools," the headmaster told Alyosha. "I'm going to buy meat and cheese and fruit for dinner." And the headmaster went away. Alyosha helped to decorate the house. Then he decided to play in the yard. First, he came up to the fence and looked through a hole. There was no one in the street. Then the boy went to his hens. Suddenly, he saw the cook with a big knife. He didn't like the cook. She was an unkind woman with a loud voice. She was always angry. "She's going to catch a hen. It's terrible. But there is nothing I can do. I can't help my friends now," Alyosha thought. He ran away. "Alyosha, Alyosha, help me catch a hen," shouted the cook. But Alyosha ran faster. Then he hid behind the hen house. The tears from his eyes started falling on the ground. Alyosha stood behind the hen house long. The cook still tried to catch a hen. Suddenly, the boy's heart started beating harder. He heard the voice of his dear Blackie. He must help her. Alyosha ran up to the cook. "Please, don't touch my Blackie," he cried. Blackie flew up to the roof of the hen house. The cook was angry. She wanted to tell the headmaster about Alyosha. But he came up to her and said, "You are so good, nice, and kind. Please don't take my Blackie. You can have this." Alyosha took an old gold coin out of his pocket. It was a present from his grandmother. The cook looked at the coin. She liked it. Alyosha wanted very much to keep the coin, but he gave it to the cook to save his favorite hen. The cook went back into the house. Blackie flew down from the roof and came up to Alyosha. All morning she followed the boy around the yard like a dog. "She wants to tell me something," thought Alyosha. "But she can't do it. She is only a hen." Part 2. 2 hours or so before the dinner, the guests started to come. Alyosha wanted to see the inspector very much. He must be a famous knight, he thought. "I think he's young and tall and very brave." But then Alyosha remembered the black hen. He saw the awful picture again, the cook with a knife trying to catch his favorite hen. "What did Blackie want to tell me?" he thought. "I can go to the hen house, but not now. I must go to the dinner first. It is very important for the headmaster." Soon the inspector came. The headmaster's wife saw him through the window. She told her husband about the important guest. Everything in the house started moving. The headmaster went out of the house to meet the inspector. The other guests followed him. Even Alyosha forgot about his hen. He came up to the window to see the noble knight. But he didn't see him. The inspector was already in the house. A few minutes later, the headmaster's wife opened the door of the drawing room. Alyosha came up to the door and saw a little man in a grey suit. "He is not a knight at all," thought the boy. Everyone sat down to have dinner. There were a lot of wonderful things on the table, but Alyosha ate very little. He couldn't stop thinking about his Blackie. After the dinner, he came up to the headmaster and said, "Can I go out to play in the yard?" "Yes," said the headmaster, "but don't stay there long." Alyosha put on his red coat and a green hat and ran out into the yard. It was 4 o'clock. The hens were already sleepy. They didn't even want to take new pieces of bread from the boy. Only Blackie was not sleepy. She came up to Alyosha at once. He played with the hen for a long time. Then it got dark. It was time for supper. Alyosha closed the door of the hen house. The black hen looked at the boy. Her eyes were like 2 bright stars in the sky. "Is she asking me to stay?" thought Alyosha. "No, it can't be." After supper, Alyosha went to the classroom and sat there alone. The guests left at 10:30. Before that, Alyosha went downstairs to the bedroom. He got into his bed. The boy put out the light, but he couldn't sleep. Some time later, the headmaster entered the bedroom. He had a candle in his hand. He looked at Alyosha and left, closing the door. Alyosha looked at the moon. All was quiet. Suddenly, the boy heard a noise. He looked at the bed of his best friend and saw something strange. The sheet on the bed is moving, he thought. And then a voice called him quietly, "Alyosha, Alyosha." Alyosha closed his eyes. He was alone in the bedroom. He was afraid to open his eyes. There is somebody under the bed, he thought. But how can he know my name? Alyosha sat up in bed. The sheet started moving again. Somebody called him once more. Suddenly, from under the white sheet came the black hen. "Oh, it's you, Blackie!" Alyosha cried. "How did you get here?" Blackie flew up on his bed and said, "Yes, it's me, Alyosha. You are not afraid of me, are you?" "No, Blackie, I'm not afraid of you. You are my friend. It's nice to hear your voice. You can speak so well." "If you are not afraid of me," said the hen, "come with me now. Please put on your clothes, quickly." "You are funny, Blackie," said Alyosha. "How can I do that? It's so dark here. I don't see my clothes." "Okay, I have an idea," said the hen. Then she said something in a strange voice, and suddenly Alyosha saw a lot of very small candles everywhere. The candles were on the floor, on the chairs, at the windows. It was no longer dark in the room. Alyosha put on his clothes. Then Blackie said something again, and the candles disappeared. "Follow me," she told him. Part 3. Alyosha bravely followed the hen. Blackie's eyes were very bright, so they didn't even need a candle. Alyosha and the hen walked through the hall. "The door is closed, and I haven't got the key," said Alyosha. The hen said nothing. She flapped her wings, and the door opened. Alyosha and Blackie went to the rooms of the Dutch ladies. One of them had a big gray parrot. The other one had a gray cat. The cat was very clever. She could even give her paw. Alyosha and Blackie came up to the door of the first room. The hen flapped her wings again, and the door opened. In the room, Alyosha saw beautiful old chairs and tables. He wanted to stop and look at the tables. "We can't stop here," said Blackie. Alyosha followed the hen into the second room. He saw a beautiful gold cage. There was a big parrot in the cage. He was gray, and his tail was red. Alyosha wanted to come up to the cage at once, but Blackie didn't let him do it. "Don't touch anything here," she said. "You can wake the old ladies." Only then Alyosha saw a bed near the parrot. On the bed there was a lady. Her eyes were closed. She looked very old. In another corner there was another bed with another old lady on it. and near her the boy saw a grey cat. Alyosha came up to her and said, "Give me your paw. Can you do that for me?" The cat started mewing loudly. The parrot cried, "Silly boy!" The old ladies opened their eyes and sat up in bed. Blackie ran out of the room. Alyosha followed her. They closed the door behind them. But they could still hear the parrot, "Silly boy, silly boy!" "That's bad," said the hen. "I'm afraid the knights are not sleeping now." "What knights?" asked Alyosha. "Please, don't ask me any questions," said Blackie. "We must go now. Follow me. Don't be afraid." They went downstairs and walked along the corridors. Some of them were very long, low, and narrow. Then they came into a large hall. The hall had no windows, but there were 3 wonderful large lamps. Alyosha saw many portraits of the knights on the walls. "Alyosha, please be quiet," said Blackie. At the end of the hall there was a large door. Alyosha and the hen came up to the door. Suddenly 2 knights jumped off the wall and went to Blackie. At that moment the hen started growing. She became very big and tall. She was bigger and taller than the knights. Blackie started fighting with the knights. The hen was brave, but the knights were strong too. Alyosha didn't see the end of the fight because he fainted. When he opened his eyes, it was morning. He was in bed. There was no Blackie and the knights. Alyosha thought about last night. Was it real, or was it a dream? The boy put on his clothes and went upstairs to have breakfast. He wanted to play in the yard after breakfast, but there was too much snow, so he didn't go out. After dinner, the headmaster's wife told her husband, "I can't find the black hen anywhere, but don't worry, we never get eggs from this hen. I think we can eat her for dinner sometime." Alyosha became very sad. In the afternoon, he stayed in the classroom again. He couldn't stop thinking about last night. He wanted to see the hen. "She is not in the hen house, but I may see her this night again," he thought. The time came to go to bed. Alyosha quickly took off his clothes and got into his bed. He looked at the other bed, and the white sheet started moving again. And again the boy heard a voice, "Alyosha, Alyosha!" Then Blackie came out from under the bed and flew up on Alyosha's bed. He was very happy to see the hen. "Oh, hello, Blackie!" he cried. "Are you okay?" "Yes," said the hen, "but I could be dead because of you." "What do you mean?" asked Alyosha. "You are a good boy," said Blackie, "but you didn't listen to me yesterday. It's bad. I told you not to touch anything, but you talked to the cat. The cat woke the parrot. The parrot woke the old ladies. The old ladies woke the knights. The knights started fighting with me." "I'm sorry, dear Blackie," said Alyosha. "I promise to listen to you. Always. Please, take me with you again." "Okay," said the hen. Part 4. The black hen said some words. There were small candles everywhere again. Alyosha put on his clothes and followed Blackie. They went to the rooms of the old ladies again. In the first room, Alyosha saw the old tables and chairs again. There were many pictures on the walls, too. But the people and animals in the pictures looked very strange. Their faces are so funny. Why are they doing it? Thought Alyosha. I see. They are trying to make me do something silly. The boy turned away from them. In the second room, he saw the old Dutch ladies again. They were in bed. The parrot and the cat looked at the boy, but Alyosha didn't stop. Then he saw two beautiful dolls on a table. He wanted to touch them. He remembered Blackie's words, so he didn't stop, but he smiled. The dolls jumped off the table at once and ran after him. Blackie turned and looked at Alyosha. She was angry. The boy ran up to the hen. The dolls followed them to the doors. Then they went back to their places. Alyosha and Blackie went downstairs. They walked along the corridors and at last came into the hall. The knights were on the walls. Alyosha and Blackie came up to the door. At that moment, two knights came from the wall and stopped them. But the knights didn't look angry. They looked sleepy. Blackie became big and tall again. She beat the knights with her wings, and the knights fell to pieces. Alyosha saw that they were in fact big pieces of metal. The door opened. Alyosha and Blackie entered another corridor. Then they opened a big gold door and came into another hall. It was very large. Alyosha, please stay here, said Blackie. Today you didn't touch anything, that's good. But you smiled at the dolls, and the knights came from the wall. You didn't wake the old ladies, so the knights were sleepy, and they couldn't fight with me. After these words, Blackie left the hall. Alyosha was alone. The hall was beautiful. There were wonderful pictures on the walls. At the end of the hall, the boy saw a gold chair. I like it here very much. Everything is so beautiful, but so small, he thought. At that moment, another gold door opened. A lot of people came into the hall. All the people were little like toys, but they were real. All of them had nice clothes and round hats. The little people didn't see Alyosha. They started walking around the hall and talking loudly. But Alyosha couldn't understand a word. At last he decided to ask somebody a question. Suddenly, the big door at the end of the hall opened. Everyone stopped talking. All little people took off their hats. The small candles became brighter than before. 20 little knights came into the hall in pairs and stopped near the gold chair. Then a little man in a long green dress and a crown on his head entered the hall. He looked very important. 20 little boys in red dresses followed the man. This must be the king, thought Alyosha. The king sat down on the gold chair. Then he said something to one of the knights. The knight came up to Alyosha. Please follow me, he said. Alyosha came up to the king. I know all about you, said the king. You are a good and kind boy. You also did a very good thing. I want to thank you for that. You saved my first minister." "When?" asked Alyosha. "Oh, it was the day before yesterday. It happened in the yard," said the king. "Please, meet my first minister." Alyosha looked at the small man in black. There was a little red hat on his head. He smiled at Alyosha. "I think I know him, but I didn't save any man," thought Alyosha. "Sir," he said, "the day before yesterday I saved our little black hen, not your minister." "What are you saying?" said the king angrily. "My minister is not a hen." The minister came up to Alyosha. The boy looked at him again. "Oh, you are my dear Blackie," he said in a happy voice. Part 5. The king looked at Alyosha. "I want to give you something for your help. What do you want? Tell me," he said. "Don't be afraid, Alyosha," said the minister in his ear. "What do I ask for?" thought Alyosha. He tried to think, but there wasn't any time for it. So he said, "I want to know my homework without reading it," he said. "Oh, you are a lazy boy. I didn't know that," said the king. He said something to a little boy near him. The boy brought a gold plate with a hemp seed. "Take it," said the king. "It's a magic seed. Now you can always get good marks without studying. But remember one thing. You must never say a word about me or my people. Don't forget that." Alyosha took the hemp seed and put it in his pocket. "Thank you for the present, sir. I promise not to tell anyone about your people." The king smiled at him and said, "Okay, you can stay here longer and see how we live. Goodbye." Then the king got up and left. The little people came up to Alyosha. They thanked him too. "You are so brave. You saved our minister. Thank you." The minister came up to Alyosha. "What do you want to see? The garden or the king's zoo?" he asked. "Can we go to the garden and to the zoo?" asked the boy. "Okay, let's go to the garden first," said the minister and smiled. The garden was very beautiful. Alyosha saw many bright little stones of all colors on the roads. There were many small lamps on every tree. But the trees looked a little strange. They were red, green, brown, white, and blue. Alyosha came up to one of the trees and touched it. "Oh, these are not real trees," he said, "but they are very nice." "This is moss," said the minister, "but it is taller and thicker than in your forests. The king bought this moss far from here. He gave a lot of money for it." From the garden they went into the king's zoo. Here Alyosha saw wild animals in gold cages. "Oh, there is a rat in the cage over there. It's funny," thought the boy, but he didn't say that to the minister. After the walk, Alyosha and his friend came back for supper. In the big hall, the boy saw a table with cakes and fruit on gold plates. There were gold bottles and glasses there, too. "Eat what you like," said the minister, "but you can't take anything with you." "Thank you, but I'm not hungry," said Alyosha. "Please tell me about your people," asked Alyosha. "We live under your school. Nobody knows about us, because we don't go out now. Many years ago we often went out. People could see us then. Now we always stay under the ground. Many of your people can't keep a secret. When somebody says a word about us, we go away at once. We go far, far away. It's always a problem to leave our things and go somewhere with all our children and animals. Do you understand me? You saved my life, Alyosha. I asked the king to let me take you here. You know how we live. We don't want to go away from this place. We like it here. So, please, don't tell anybody about us. I promise to keep you a secret, said Alyosha. But tell me, dear Blackie, why are you a hen? And why are you so afraid of the old Dutch ladies? Blackie started saying something, but Alyosha's sleepy eyes closed. He woke up in the morning in his bed. Part 6. Alyosha didn't know what to think. He remembered Blackie and the minister, the king and the knights, the Dutch ladies, and the zoo very well. Was it a dream? Did it really happen? He thought. Then the boy thought about the hemp seed. He took his coat. The seed was in the pocket. Let's see how the king keeps his word, he thought. Lessons start tomorrow, but I still don't know my history lesson. The headmaster told me to learn 4 pages from the book. The boys came back to school after the holidays. The second lesson that day was history. It was the headmaster's lesson. Alyosha was afraid to look at the headmaster. He put his hand in his pocket. The hemp seed was there. At last the headmaster said, "Now we are going to listen to Alyosha. Alyosha, please say your lesson." Alyosha came up to the headmaster and opened his mouth. He didn't know his homework. But at that moment he started talking. He said his lesson without any mistakes. "Very well," said the headmaster. But Alyosha was not happy. "I didn't learn that," he thought. "I don't like it at all." Alyosha became the best pupil at once. He got only very good marks. He always knew his homework without studying. He never made any mistakes in his tests. All this time, Alyosha didn't see Blackie. At first, he called her in the evening, but she didn't come to see him. "I know she is busy. She's the minister," he thought. Then he remembered her only from time to time. Soon all St. Petersburg knew about a very clever boy. The inspector of schools came to Alyosha's school 4 times to listen to him. The headmaster was happy. His school was famous now. Many mothers and fathers asked him to take their children. At first, Alyosha's gift made him sad. But then he started thinking a lot of himself. "I'm better and cleverer than the other children," he thought. And he showed it to the other boys. He was no longer a good and kind boy. He became proud and naughty. One day a voice inside him said, "Don't be so bad, Alyosha. Yes, you have this gift, but you're not better than the other children." But Alyosha didn't listen to that voice. Each day everyone liked him less and less. The headmaster didn't know what to do with him. He told the boy to learn more and more, but it didn't help. Alyosha didn't study at all, but he always knew his homework very well. One day the headmaster told him to learn by heart 20 pages. But Alyosha was more naughty than usual, so he didn't even open the book. "Why should I learn something? I've got my magic seed, he thought. The next day the headmaster opened the book and said, Alyosha, please say your lesson. Alyosha stood up and came up to the headmaster. Everyone looked at him. Alyosha opened his mouth, and nothing happened. What is happening? Said the headmaster. Say your lesson. Alyosha couldn't say a word. He didn't know the lesson. What does this mean, Alyosha? The headmaster asked. Why don't you speak? Alyosha put his hand in the pocket. The seed wasn't there. It was terrible. I'm sorry, said the boy. He started crying. The headmaster became very angry. Go to the bedroom, he said, and learn your lesson, now. Part 7. Alyosha went to the bedroom, but he didn't take the book. He started looking for the hemp seed. First, he looked in all his pockets. Then he looked under the bed. No seed. It may be in the yard, Alyosha thought. I played there yesterday. I lost it there. But how can I get it back? I can't leave the room now. The boy decided to call Blackie. Dear Blackie, he said, dear minister, please come to me. Give me another seed. But Blackie didn't come. Alyosha sat down on a chair and started crying again. Soon it was time for dinner. The door opened. The headmaster came into the bedroom. Do you know the lesson now? He asked Alyosha. No, said the boy. Then learn it, said the headmaster angrily. He left the bedroom. Soon he came again. He brought Alyosha a glass of water and a piece of bread. Alyosha started reading his book. He tried hard to learn the text by heart, but it was hard for him now. He stopped studying a long time ago. In the evening he knew only 2 pages. It was time to go to bed. The boys came into the bedroom. With them came the headmaster again. Alyosha, do you know the lesson? He asked. Only 2 pages, said Alyosha. I see. Then you can learn it in the morning, said the headmaster. Sorry, but no breakfast for you. Only some bread and water again. The headmaster left. Alyosha tried to speak to the other boys, but his friends didn't like him any longer, so no one said a word to him. Alyosha went to bed in tears. But he couldn't sleep. He was very sad. Blackie doesn't want to see me either, he thought. Suddenly, the sheet started moving. Blackie, Blackie, said Alyosha in a low voice. The sheet moved once more. Then the black hen flew up on the boy's bed. Alyosha was very happy to see his friend. Oh, Blackie, he said, why didn't you come? I'm your friend. Yes, said the hen, I know. You are my friend, and you saved me from the cook. You were a good boy then. Everyone liked you, but now you are awful. Alyosha started crying. Blackie spoke to him for a long time. She asked him to become a nice, kind boy again. In the end, the hen told him, I must leave you now, Alyosha. Here is your hemp seed. You lost it in the yard. Our king doesn't take his present away from you, but you should become a good boy. And remember your promise. Don't tell anyone about us, Alyosha. Alyosha took the hemp seed from the hen. Dear Blackie, thank you for your help. Don't worry, I promise to become better in the morning. It is not easy, remember that, said the hen. I'm sorry, I must go now. Goodbye, Alyosha." Alyosha looked at the hemp seed. He was happy again. "I can say 20 pages of the text without a mistake now, and it is very easy to become better," he thought. The next morning the headmaster told Alyosha to come to the classroom. "Do you know your lesson?" he said. "Yes, I do," said the boy quickly. And he said his lesson without any mistakes. Then he looked at the headmaster and the boys. The headmaster didn't like Alyosha's proud smile. "You know your lesson now," said the headmaster. "But why didn't you want to say it yesterday?" "I didn't know it yesterday," said Alyosha. "Didn't you?" said the headmaster. "Yesterday evening you knew 2 pages. You told me that. And today you know all 20 pages without any mistakes. When did you learn them?" Alyosha said in low voice, "I learned them in the morning." But then the children shouted, "No, he didn't look at the book this morning." Alyosha said nothing. "Answer me," the headmaster said. "When did you learn the lesson?" Alyosha didn't know what to say. Part 8. The headmaster was very angry. He said, "You are a clever boy, Alyosha, but yesterday you were very naughty, and you are naughty today. I'm going to punish you for that." It was a terrible thing for Alyosha. "Boys," said the headmaster to the other children, "don't speak to Alyosha." The headmaster took the birch. Alyosha ran up to the headmaster in tears. "Please don't do it. I promise to become better." "Why didn't you think about it before?" asked the headmaster. The other boys asked the headmaster to forgive Alyosha. "Very well," said the headmaster. "I forgive you. But first you must say when you learned the lesson." Alyosha was very unhappy. He forgot his promise to the king and his minister. He told the headmaster about the black hen. He told him about the knights and the underground people. The headmaster stopped the boy. "What?" he cried angrily. "You are trying to tell me a story about a hen now? That is too much. No, children, I must punish this boy." The headmaster punished Alyosha. After that, the boy went to the bedroom. It was a terrible time for him. Alyosha put his hand in his pocket. The hemp seed wasn't there. The boy started crying again. That evening he went to bed with the other children, but he couldn't sleep. "I must become better. I was so bad," he thought, "and I can't get the hemp seed back now." Suddenly the sheet moved. Alyosha closed his eyes. He was afraid of seeing Blackie. "Only yesterday I promised her to become better. What can I tell her now?" he thought. Somebody came up to his bed. A voice called his name. "Alyosha! Alyosha!" It was the voice of Blackie. Alyosha opened his eyes, but it was not the black hen near his bed. The boy saw a sad small man in black. He had his little red hat on his head. "Alyosha," said the minister, "I can see that you are not sleeping. I want to tell you something important. We are going away. Goodbye, Alyosha." "Goodbye, Blackie," said Alyosha. "Goodbye, and please forgive me." "Alyosha," said the minister sadly, "I forgive you. You saved my life. I still love you. But we can't stay under your school any longer. We're going far away. Everyone is so unhappy. We lived here many years. It was such a good place. Alyosha tried to take the minister's small hand. Suddenly he saw something strange. "What is it on your hands?" he asked. The minister showed him his hands. Alyosha saw gold chains. "I must wear these chains now," said the minister. "But don't cry, Alyosha. Your tears can't help me. Do one thing for me. Be a good boy. Goodbye." And the minister disappeared under the bed. "Blackie! Blackie!" cried Alyosha. But Blackie didn't say a word. Alyosha didn't sleep all night. He heard voices under the floor. He got out of the bed and sat down on the floor. He listened to the voices for a long time. "The little people are going away because of me," he thought. Then he heard the voice of Minister Blackie. "Goodbye, Alyosha, goodbye." The next morning the children found Alyosha on the floor. He was ill. They put him to bed. Soon the doctor came. "The boy is very ill," he said. "He must stay in bed." Alyosha stayed in bed for a long time. In spring, he was back in classroom. The headmaster and the other boys didn't talk to him about the black hen or about the birch. Alyosha didn't like to remember them either. He tried to be good and kind. Everyone became nice to him again. But he couldn't learn 20 pages by heart. In fact, nobody asked him to do that anymore.